YouTube, how are we doing today? Welcome back to my channel. Today we have our first of hopefully many Cold War weapon breakdown videos. Today we're featuring the Beast AK74U. This gun brings some serious nostalgia back from the original Black Ops days, and I absolutely love this gun. I think once the MP5 gets its inevitable nerf, this gun will be quite a top contender in the SMG category, which is why I am choosing to review this weapon first. Let's get to it. The AK74U has solid range and is really deadly up close. The great thing about Cold War is the variety of attachments and the ability to kit out your weapons per your playstyle. We will be comparing all of the attachments side by side on screen, and we will talk about which ones are completely throwaway attachments and which ones you should really take note of. This might not be what you want to hear, but there is really no good one class for the AK74U, but I will be giving you two specific classes that I recommend based on if you're wanting to run and gun or if you're trying to play a bit more of a passive type game with this SMG. This means one loadout for those crazy pushers and another that is really meant for more range and accuracy type of play, maybe a little bit slower. Of course, this is all just my opinion, and you should be picking the loadout and attachments that fit your play style. If you guys like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more gun guides, gameplay, and other Cold War goodness that is on the way. Thank you so much for the support as of late. We are going to be going down all of the attachments per the way they are laid out in the menus from top to bottom. Timestamps are in the description if you're curious about a specific attachment suggestion. So let's begin with comparing the optics for this gun. I'm not gonna lie, in Cold War, I really don't love a lot of the 1x optics, and I honestly feel they are pretty trash, especially the optics that you earn early on in the leveling. In my opinion, the iron sights for the AK74U are really solid and definitely should be good for anyone running and gunning up close. Or if you are just looking to ditch an optic in favor of a different attachment, you can definitely do that for this gun. However, if you want my personal recommendations, I'm going to be going with the Microflex 1.25x. I think this one is the cleanest of the bunch of the optics. Very few of the optics that you earn later on in the levels are worth it, in my opinion. They aren't too bad when you're looking down the sights, but they're extremely bulky around the gun, and it just really doesn't feel that good to be running them. Of course, you can run a 2x or the 2 to 4x if you want to on this gun. It might help a little bit to get those long shots done if you're trying to get the camos, but otherwise I really would stay away from these kind of longer range optics for this SMG. Moving on to the muzzles for the AK74U, and there are a handful of decent muzzles that can be used. For me, I use this sound suppressor if I am trying to play more of a range game with this sub. For running and gunning, I find most of these are throwaway attachments. The AK74U has pretty easy to control recoil pattern, which we will get into with the barrels, but for now, I think you can pass on most of the muzzle attachments. Of course, the first attachment, the muzzle brake, has no negatives, so this is a solid buff, but it is minimal. The other option is the KGB Eliminator for vertical recoil control, but I really don't think it is worth the loss of horizontal recoil control, which is much harder to control just in general. So for me, it's either make or break. I'm either running the suppressor or I'm generally not running a muzzle at all. Next up, we have the barrel attachments, and we have a number of great options to use for the AK74U. Bullet velocity in this game is much more needed than in any COD before. Velocity makes a huge difference, as it does definitely speed up bullets considerably. However, for me, velocity doesn't quite matter as much if you are running and gunning, but if you are trying to do a bit more of a range suppressed or kind of passive type of gameplay with the AK74U, you will definitely want to consider using an attachment that increases bullet velocity. Damage range is always good, but in this game, damage range is insane. A lot of these guns do a lot of damage from decent range, so damage range, in my opinion, is a little bit less needed for the SMG category. But as always, more range is better, but for me, at the cost of sprint speed, which is pretty much all of these, it is not worth getting this bonus range buff. My must-use for running and gunning is the 10.3-inch Liberator or the 9.3-inch extended barrels. Aim, walking, movement speed doesn't matter quite as much when it comes to running and gunning, in my opinion at least. Some people like to have this because they strafe a lot, but this really isn't quite me. I'm often kind of hip firing at close ranges or quickly aiming down sights and finishing people, so I really don't take too much consideration into strafing speed. As for range fights, the VDV Reinforced is very powerful with damage range and velocity at the cost of sprint speed, which is okay for this because we are playing a little bit more passive if we are running kind of the longer range build that we have been talking about. And that is everything with the barrel stabilizers. Next up is the body category, and the body category for me is mostly a throwaway category for me. If you need to remove an attachment, then this is the one to take from. However, hipfire accuracy of the GRU 5mW laser sight and the steady aim laser are great buffs with minimal costs. The other attachments give reveal distance, which is pretty much pointless in my opinion for the run and gun players. So again, you can pretty much throw away the body attachment if you need to make room for a different attachment. This is the one to take it from. Now is when the attachments really start to get interesting. A lot of the upcoming attachments are hard to choose from because there's a lot of great benefits from these. Starting with the Underbarrel, there are some great grips to use for the Underbarrel attachment. Two throwaway options for me are the melee quickness ones, which is virtually pointless. The patrol and foregrips are great and offer no negatives. I'm a fan of both of the Spetsnaz grips because they offer great buffs with little negatives in my opinion. The Spetsnaz speed grip does reduce movement speed, but this is only walking movement speed, as sprinting speed is increased, which is really what matters in a run and gun. You want to be able to sprint across the map as quick as possible. As for the Spetsnaz grip, this is also fantastic for recoil control, and it's one of the best attachments in the game for recoil control. And this is what I'll be running on the longer range kind of suppressed SMG loadout that I use. So for me, I'm pretty much always running one of the Spetsnaz grips. Check these out. These are definitely two of the best attachments in the game for recoil control and sprinting movement speed. Moving on, we have the magazines. A couple of these magazines are complete throwaways for me, and that is the 40-round speed mag and the 50-round fast mag. And these are only throwaways for me because I really don't like the reduction in aim down sights time. The 20% reduction for aim down sight time to me is huge. I don't want to lose this. My preferred choices for these are the 40-round drum mag for the range fight engagements and the tape mag if I am running and gunning. This is pretty straightforward. I am happy that we have a couple options to choose from when it does come to magazines, and you should be definitely picking the magazine that fits your play style. If you want to run 50-round mags, definitely do it. It's pretty great being able to spray down large teams without having to reload, I'm not gonna lie. Moving on to the handles, and all the attachments in the handle department are viable in my opinion. It just depends on your play style. You can definitely ditch this attachment if you need to make room for another attachment, and if you are playing slower without running and gunning. If you are running and gunning, drop shot wrap in my opinion is a must equip. Drop shotting is just one of the best ways to juke out your enemies at the close range fights, and without this drop shot wrap, it is pretty much impossible to do this. Of course, if you are not a drop shotter, then you can definitely get by with looking at something else like the speed tape or the field tape. So this is a must-have. As for the other attachments, they all give you pretty much aim down sights time increase, which is good to have, but it does come at a cost of sprint to fire speed, which generally I don't want to have if I'm running and gunning, so I try to stay away from these, but they can be viable if you want to be able to aim down sights and laser onto someone really quickly. So just keep that in mind when you are picking a handle. So that's pretty much it for the handles. It is pretty self-explanatory. For me, I must be taking the drop shot wrap if I am rushing. It is pretty much crucial and I need to have it. And the final attachment for us to take a look at is the stocks. The stocks on the AK74U are pretty good. The only throwaway for me is the tactile stock, which is aim, walking, movement speed. But at the end of the day, this does have no negatives and it can be great for a strafing build. My preferred is no stock if I'm running and gunning. Sprint to fire speed is crucial at those close range plays where every millisecond matters. For longer range builds, I like the KGB skeletal stock, which gives a great buff to sprint to fire time at the cost of hip fire accuracy, which I generally am not doing with a more ranged type of build. Stocks are great. I really love a lot of the stocks here, and I think they really round out the type of loadout that you will want to be creating. So now moving on to my full builds, now that we have talked about all the attachments. For starters, my rushing and running and gunning setup is as follows. I like to run it with 6 perks with this class because I love to have dead silence and ghost. Nearly everyone is running UAV and they are up almost non-stop with the new kill streak system. On top of that, footsteps are insanely loud and ninja is a must as well. For other notable perks, I run tactical mask and engineer, or sometimes flak jacket. Perk 2 slot is mostly a throwaway in my opinion. but I have tracker and assassin on. For the AK attachments that I'm using on my running and gunning, there are 5 of them. It is the 10.3-inch Liberator, Spetsnaz Speed Grip, taped mags, drop shot, wrap, and no stock. All these attachments make it so I can move quite quickly and have pretty great ADS and hip fire and drop shotting capabilities. And finally, my alternate build for the range and more stealth type of setup, I am running 3 perks and 8 attachments. Important perks being Ninja and Tactical Mask, as well as running Tracker. The attachment breakdown is as follows: the Microflex, the Sound Suppressor 9.3-inch VDV reinforced, Steady Aim Laser Spetsnaz Grip 40-round Speed Mag, Speed Tape, and KGB Skeletal Stock. All these give me a great setup to control my recoil while staying off the radar with the silencer. And everyone, that is everything to do with the AK74U. If this guide and weapon breakdown was helpful, please hit that like button, as it does help an insane amount with getting the video noticed. Boy, did it take a long time for me to get all these graphics together. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more Cold War content that is on the way. And of course, you can always stop by one of my Twitch streams, which is almost daily at 8 p.m. Eastern, or join our community Discord if you have any more questions regarding anything Cold War related. Links are all in the description below. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace out, everyone.